This has not been a good week for the Manchester United footballer Marcus Rashford. The left-wing attacker, who is black, found himself at the center of lurid newspaper headlines and stern media and social media criticism, after going out on what was described as a 12-hour tequila bender in Belfast. The bar hopping led Rashford to report himself too ill to train with his teammates the next day, just as his colleagues were preparing for an important cup match that was billed as a season saver. Rashford has previous, as they say, for this type of nonchalance. In December 2022, Rashford was dropped from the United first 11 after being late for a team meeting. 10 months later, to great media fury, Rashford celebrated his 25th birthday in a Manchester nightclub, on the same evening as United lost miserably by 3 goals to local rivals Manchester City. If United were winning and Rashford playing at the height of his powers, these instances of unprofessionalism would be indulged by media hacks, desperate to keep on the right side of a player who has established himself as the emblem of his club. Across Manchester, Jack Grealish appears to have been partying non-stop since his team scooped the treble at the end of the 2023 season. As a result, his first team place has come under threat and he is an irregular starter for Pep Guardiola's champions this term. But the media has bought into his Jack the Lad persona and will sheath their daggers until City stop winning and the hunt begins for someone to blame. The fact that Grealish is white is, for once, not an issue. He is a proven winner, and is treated as such. The media turned a blind eye on the Trinidad-born United folk hero Dwight Yorke, even as his career nosedived amid indiscreet tabloid tales of his partying and alleged philandering. Players who can place their medals on the table are allowed to travel without a parachute in the rarefied air of sporting celebrity. Those with flatlining careers enjoy no such luck. United have not played well for 12 months. Manager Erik ten Hag is not expected to survive the scrutiny of a new football hierarchy at the club, which is rumored to be unimpressed by the team's mid-table position, its terrible inconsistency, and its perilous finances, caused by disastrous player recruitment. Add Rashford's poor form and exorbitant weekly salary, and the media has the fertile conditions necessary to justify its mobbing of the player. And so, even as Rashford accepted blame for his behavior and was hit with a fine of £650,000, the opportunity to go for the jugular of a sporting icon was just too good to refuse. Summoning all their rage and thinly disguised jealousy, media pundits set about Rashford with the zeal of 17th-century Lutheran preachers, attacking behavior which in any other workplace might result in immediate dismissal. Unsurprisingly, it was the Daily Mail newspaper which best disguised its prurience. The Mail's headline introducing Ian Herbert's comment article to readers hung the reporter out to dry, as it left little to the imagination.
In Marcus Rashford's story of self-destruction, the real villains are pimps on the periphery out to fleece him.
Pimps on the periphery may be a phrase that scans well, but the newspaper sub-editors must have understood the mighty dog whistle they were unleashing when using the term to describe the members of Rashford's inner circle. Like blackmugger, black pimp first entered the British lexicon as one word in the 1970s, as establishment racist Enoch Powell marshaled his forces against the black settlement of the country. And so the word pimp in the same sentence as black men still raises hackles some 50 years later, especially as it is hard to remember such a noun ever being employed in newspaper discussions of other English football morality tales, such as the late George Best, Paul Gascoigne, Wayne Rooney, Eric Cantona, Charlie George, Stan Bowles, Alan Hudson or Adam Johnson, all of whom are white. Herbert's sulphurous hit piece was a cocktail of envy, pathos, and faux media outrage. The denunciation of Rashford's tequila bender was admittedly mild when compared to the article's headline.
The Minders were the ones clearly ruling the roost on that night. Ordering transport, forbidding autographs, booking hotel rooms, organizing transport, taking a large slab of the Rashford Reddies, thanks very much. Some will have little sympathy for an individual who, on £325,000 a week, is among United's top 3 earners and for whom this descent into chaos has now been ongoing for months. The missed team meetings, the casino visits, the booze, they're all a part of football's most open secret.
Elsewhere, the pimps in Rashford's entourage were outed as his two brothers, two former United teammates, and a childhood friend. Are these men really the criminal controllers helping themselves to Rashford's hard-earned cash? As prime suspects, they are unconvincing. Even Herbert doesn't dare call out Rashford's brothers as pimps, if only to spare himself a solicitor's letter. But the Mail newspaper sub-editors didn't get to where they are without knowing the value of an incendiary headline, leaving chroniclers of British media with yet more evidence of the sinister coverage of the country's black people. Despite its occasional gestures towards decency, the Daily Mail's general hostility towards black people who do not know their place, nor stay in their lane, is well known and long established. Much the same can be said of British football's attitude to black footballers who want action taken to stop their workplace being disfigured by racist chanting and even the abuse of colleagues. Yet, this week, black football royalty was in Nottingham, hoping to make another appeal to football's executives to take anti-racism seriously. The Guardian newspaper's report listed the who, what, where, and why, but not the how of this fresh attempt to curb stadia racism.
Thierry Henry, Lillian Thuram, Viv Anderson, and Anthony Elanga are among a number of prominent footballers past and present to have signed a pledge committing themselves to publicly push for racial equality in football. The statement was agreed during a conference at Nottingham Forest City Ground, in which players and Harvard academics discussed how to further anti-discriminatory aims. The statement committed the signees to use their platforms and influence to demand an end to racism in their sport.
Supporters of the statement want stricter and decisive measures, a commitment to anti-racist fan and player education, and more athlete input in decision-making. They believe that players can use their visibility and power to produce meaningful and sustainable outcomes. According to Thuram, black players are reluctant to raise their voices for fear of the consequences. Henry, the greatest black footballer ever to play the game for an English club, said the onus must be put onto football's governing bodies to make change. It is hard to disagree with Thuram and Henry's analysis. Crucially, what was missing from the press communiqué was an indication of what black players should do if this latest appeal to common decency falls upon deaf ears. Should black players leave the field of play as soon as they are subject to racial insults from the crowd? Should clubs be fined for the racial barracking of their supporters, so that the clubs have a financial incentive to root out the criminals in their midst? Without hard consequences, we are certain to be back here again. Another generation of highly skilled black athletes will come before the media to ask that patrons of another ethnicity treat them with respect that their extraordinary talents deserve. No one hurls anti-Russian insults at the Moscow-born ballerina on stage. And no one would dare throw rotten tomatoes during the opening monologue of an Oscar-winning American actor. Yet black players are routinely subject to racist insults whilst at work, and their spokesmen offer little more than sports version of begging bull politics as a response. If, for example, black athletes demanded that referees suspend games, allowing the police to review crowd video and arrest anyone responsible for racist chanting, the problem would be over in short order. Football administrators and their TV paymasters would see to it. If black athletes were really serious about anti-racism and declared that they would refuse to continue playing if they were racially abused, then again, capitalism would lead to a swift resolution of the problem. Instead, black players bring out their violins and hope that their pleas will be listened to and heeded. This ignores a long history of silence, followed by empty gestures, committee reports, and changes that go nowhere. This is not to condemn football as a hotbed of racial intransigence. The industry requires competitive excellence, which is why black footballers' willingness to bring a pea shooter to a gunfight is baffling. Many of these same black footballers are said to bemoan their chances of getting coaching jobs in an industry where 34% of the elite playing staff are black and 10% are managers. The current ratio suggests that efforts to promote the cause of black coaches may be paying off. But do not be fooled. What black players say they want is a foot in the door. They say that even with coaching badges and overseas experience, they are still ignored and excluded. Black players want the chance that is offered to white players to test their skills in the world's most competitive league. It is an appeal to the fair-mindedness of others that should be at odds with the black footballer's understanding of his own rise to greatness. Sport is the only arena where black people instinctively believe that their talents will speak louder than the social interpretation attached to their ethnicity. As Jesse Jackson once said, blacks thrive when the playing field is level and the rules are known in advance. A black player's rise to the pinnacle of his or her profession is the sum of hard work, dedication, natural gifts, good fortune, and resilience. At no stage is it the result of someone else's compassion. And yet, some black players and their white liberal allies claim that this model of sporting Darwinism should be sacrificed on the altar of inclusion and diversity. This is a battle now taking place in every sector where blacks challenge enshrined white privilege, casting black people as the enemies of meritocracy. Blacks can compete and will compete without set-asides, special favors, or rule changes. This mindset should be readily understood by black footballers whose entire existence is a tribute to achieving excellence without any help. Moreover, these black footballers, many of whom have accumulated millions over the course of their careers, have the finances to really be game changers in the football industry. By pooling their resources, black footballers could become club owners and thus be in a position to hire any brother or sister they wanted. So, why don't black athletes choose business over bellyaching? How could black athletes beat industry capitalists at their own game? These questions are for another podcast. Please like and share this episode. And whilst you are here, please subscribe to the channel to receive all of our videos and podcasts as soon as they are released. Thanks for listening.